The autumn rain painted Chicago's financial district in shades of gray as expensive sedans lined up outside Belmont's, an Italian restaurant so exclusive that reservations were booked 6 months in advance. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of aged Parmesan, white truffle oil, and the unmistakable aroma of wealth. At table 12, near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Chicago River, sat Vincent Torres. At 43, Vincent was the embodiment of self-made success. As founder of Torres Capital Group, a private equity firm specializing in hostile takeovers, he had built a $3 billion empire. His reputation preceded him, ruthless, brilliant, and absolutely certain of his own superiority. Tonight, he wore a Tom Ford suit that cost more than most people earned in 3 months, and his Patek Philippe watch caught the candlelight with every gesture. "Gentlemen," Vincent said, leaning back with supreme confidence, "let me tell you about the sweetest deal I've seen in 5 years. Nexcore Industries. They make semiconductor components, critical stuff for everything from smartphones to military equipment." Across from him sat his inner circle: Mitchell Hayes, his COO and enthusiastic yes man; Aaron Katz, the nervous head of due diligence; and Robert Chen, their legal counsel who specialized in finding contractual loopholes. "What's the play?" Mitchell asked, already grinning. "Nexcore is drowning," Vincent explained, swirling his wine. "Their CEO died 6 months ago. The board appointed his widow as interim CEO, a woman who's never worked a day in corporate America, suddenly running a $2 billion company." The table chuckled. "Their stock is down 43% this year. We go in, buy them out at 30 cents on the dollar, install real management, cut 60% of the workforce, and flip it to Samsung or Intel. Conservative estimate? We triple our money in 18 months. Vincent snapped his fingers without looking up. "Waiter, another bottle of Barolo, and bring us the burrata, the good one." The server who approached moved with practiced invisibility. Her name tag read Catherine, though no one at table 12 had ever bothered to read it. Catherine Morales was 36, though exhaustion made her look older. Her black uniform was perfectly pressed, her dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. She had worked at Belmont's for 8 months, taking every shift available, double shifts on weekends, covering for sick colleagues, anything to keep the paychecks coming. What none of the wealthy diners knew was that Catherine had a PhD in applied economics from the University of Chicago. She had published papers in prestigious journals. She had once consulted for the Federal Reserve on monetary policy, but that was before the scandal, before her name became synonymous with failure, before the world decided she was guilty without proving her innocent. Now she was just the waitress. She approached the table, balancing the Barolo expertly. She poured with smooth precision, knowing exactly how to be present without being noticed. Vincent didn't even glance at her. But Mitchell, emboldened by wine and the euphoria of impending wealth, decided to have some fun. "Hey, Vince," Mitchell said with a smirk. "Remember that contrarian indicator test from Goldman? If you want to know whether an investment is too obvious, you ask someone completely random. If they've heard of it, the trade is crowded, and you should bail." Vincent's eyes lit up with amusement. This was the kind of game the ultra-wealthy played when bored, turning people into props for entertainment. "That's brilliant," Vincent said, deliberately blocking Catherine's path. For the first time all evening, he actually looked at her, though not really at her as a person, more like examining an object. "Excuse me," Vincent said, his tone dripping with false politeness. "Can I ask you a question?" Catherine froze, gripping the empty wine bottle tighter. Every instinct told her to decline and walk away. But table 12 was one of the restaurant's biggest spenders. One complaint from Vincent Torres could cost her this job, and she couldn't lose this job. "Of course, sir," Catherine said quietly, eyes fixed on a spot over his shoulder. "How can I help you?" "It's about money," Vincent said, and the table erupted in barely suppressed laughter. "We're discussing a potential investment, Nexcore Industries. Have you heard of them?" Catherine's breath caught. Of course she'd heard of Nexcore. She'd written a 40-page research report on semiconductor supply chain vulnerabilities. Nexcore had been a case study. But she couldn't say that. She couldn't reveal who she really was, what she used to be. "I'm just a waitress, sir," Catherine said softly. "I don't really follow business news." "Come on," Vincent pressed. If you had $10 million right now, completely hypothetical, would you invest it in Nextcore? Yes or no? Mitchell snickered. She'd probably put it in a savings account earning 0.5%. Robert Chen shifted uncomfortably. Guys, maybe we should. It's just a harmless question, Vincent interrupted. Red light or green light? Buy or pass? Catherine felt something shift inside her, like a lock clicking open in a door she'd kept bolted for years. She looked down at the papers on their table, the prospectus, the financial projections, the colorful charts. She could see the numbers, she could see the assumptions, and she could see they were wrong. The old Catherine, the one who had spent 12 years studying market dynamics, began to wake up. The part of her silenced by shame and survival instinct started to speak. Don't, one part of her brain screamed. You need this job. Walk away. But another part, the part that had spent 8 months watching arrogant men make terrible decisions while she served them, couldn't stay silent. Catherine took a slow breath. If I had $10 million, Catherine said, her voice quiet but crystal clear, I wouldn't touch Nextcore with your money, let alone mine. The laughter died instantly. Vincent blinked. I'm sorry, what? Catherine's posture changed, straightened. The mask of subservience slipped, revealing someone entirely different. Your prospectus, Catherine said, gesturing with the wine bottle. You're missing the critical detail in the supply chain analysis. 4 sets of eyes stared at her in shocked silence. Nextcore doesn't manufacture semiconductors, Catherine continued, her voice steady. They're fabricationless. They outsource 100% of manufacturing to a single supplier in Taiwan, Taiwanese Semiconductor Alliance, TSA. If you look at the footnotes in their most recent 10K filing, specifically Note 17 on page 89, you'll see they have an exclusive manufacturing agreement with TSA that expires in 4 months. Aaron's fingers froze midair over his tablet. That contract requires a minimum order commitment of $200 million annually. But Nextcore's current demand has fallen to only $90 million because of the automotive sector slowdown. If TSA doesn't renew, and why would they, Nextcore will have to find a new manufacturer. That will take at least 18 months, during which they'll lose their 3 biggest customers. She met Vincent's eyes directly. You're not buying a struggling company with fixable problems. You're buying a company about to lose its entire production capability. The semiconductor equipment isn't the asset, the TSA relationship is, and that's about to evaporate. You'd be acquiring an empty shell. Complete silence. The widow CEO you mentioned? Catherine added, Dr. Jennifer Wu? She has a PhD in materials science from MIT and spent 15 years as TSA's head of strategic partnerships. She's the only person in that company who understands the supply chain. If you try a hostile takeover, you'll spook TSA completely. The contract will collapse and you'll hold worthless equity. Catherine stepped back, suddenly realizing what she'd done. Color drained from her face. Her hands shook. I apologize, she whispered. I'll bring your burrata right away. She turned and walked quickly toward the kitchen, heart pounding so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Behind her, table 12 sat in stunned silence. Vincent slowly lowered his wine glass, staring at the empty space where the waitress had been. Aaron, Vincent said quietly, pull up the full 10K filing, now. The ride back to Torres Capital's office was dead silent. Usually, Vincent's Mercedes was a place of celebration. Tonight, it felt like a funeral procession. Aaron hunched over his laptop, fingers flying. He'd pulled every Nextcore document, SEC filings, supplier contracts, industry reports. He was sweating. Aaron never sweated. Talk to me, Vincent said, staring out at the Chicago skyline. Was she bullshitting? I don't, Aaron's voice cracked. I don't understand how we missed this. Vincent's head snapped around. Missed what? She was right, Aaron whispered. It's all here. Note 17, page 89. The TSA manufacturing agreement, minimum commitment of $200 million annually. Contract expiration February 14th. That's 16 weeks from now. And the order volume, Aaron scrolled frantically. 87 million. They're nowhere near the threshold. If TSA walks away, they have no manufacturer, Vincent finished, his voice hollow. Mitchell spoke from the back. She did that math in her head while holding a wine bottle while we were mocking her. Vincent felt ice spreading through his chest. He'd been 48 hours from wiring $60 million to begin the acquisition. If TSA terminated their agreement, Torres Capital would have lost everything, not just the money, but the reputation. The investors would have fled. The fund would have collapsed. A woman making $11 an hour plus tips had grabbed him by the collar and yanked him back from a cliff. "Turn the car around," Vincent said suddenly. "Sir," the driver asked, "turn around. Take us back to Belmont's, now." When they arrived, Vincent burst through the doors without waiting. "The waitress," he said to Giacomo, "the maitre d'. Dark hair, served table 12. Where is she?" Giacomo frowned. "Catherine, her shift ended 20 minutes ago. She left. Is there a problem?" "I need her information, full name, phone number, address." Giacomo recoiled. "Sir, I cannot give out employee information. Privacy regulations." Vincent pulled out his wallet and dropped a thick stack of bills on the podium, at least $3,000. "Name, address, now." Giacomo looked at the money, then at Vincent's face, and saw desperation. He lowered his voice. "Catherine Morales. I don't have her current address. She moved recently. But Mr. Torres, if I may, she's overqualified for this position. PhD on her resume. She reads economics journals during breaks." "But what?" Vincent pressed. "People come looking for her," Giacomo said quietly. "Debt collectors, process servers, she's running from something, and she's terrified of losing this job." Vincent stood very still. A woman with a PhD in economics, working as a waitress, running from debt collectors. People don't fall that far unless something catastrophic happened. "Last known address?" Giacomo wrote it down. "Logan Square, Kedzie Avenue. But that's from 8 months ago." Vincent grabbed the paper. "Thank you." He returned to the car. Back to the office. "Aaron, drop the next core deal. Kill it. Tell the bankers we found critical supply chain vulnerabilities and we're out." "Done," Aaron said, already typing. "What about the waitress?" Mitchell asked. Vincent looked at the address. "Aaron, I want you to find out everything about Catherine Morales. PhD, economics, Chicago area, last 8 months, legal records, credit reports, academic publications, everything. You think she's corporate espionage?" Robert asked nervously. "No," Vincent said. "Plants make mistakes. She was perfect. She didn't want to say anything. You could see it. She did it because she couldn't watch bad math happen." "Find out who she is," Vincent ordered. "Find out why an economics PhD is serving pasta, and find out why she's running." 36 hours later, Aaron walked into Vincent's office with a manila folder thick enough to be a weapon. Vincent had barely slept. Right? The next core deal's collapse had made headlines. Torres Capital walks away from $2 billion deal after due diligence red flags, and he was being called a visionary. He felt like a fraud. Aaron dropped the folder on the desk. "You're not going to like this." Vincent opened it. The first page was a photograph. Catherine Morales, 7 years younger, wearing a navy blazer and confident smile, standing before a Federal Reserve logo. "Catherine Morales," Aaron began, completed her PhD in applied economics from University of Chicago in 2016. She joined Harrington and Cross. Vincent's eyes widened. Harrington and Cross was one of the most prestigious economic consulting firms in the world as a senior consultant. She did high-level work, merger analysis for the FTC, policy recommendations for the Fed. She was on track to make partner. What happened? In 2019, she was lead consultant on a major project for Davenport Global Holdings, $8 billion acquisition of a European shipping conglomerate. Catherine was responsible for financial risk assessment. Aaron flipped to a newspaper headline: "Davenport acquisition collapses in fraud scandal. Consultants under investigation." Catherine filed her report recommending against the acquisition. She found evidence the European company was systematically falsifying earnings. She documented everything. Vincent read through the reports, stomach sinking. But Davenport's CEO wanted the deal. When Catherine's report showed the target was worthless, he accused her of fabricating the analysis. He claimed she was working for a rival firm to sabotage the deal. "Jesus," Vincent whispered. Harrington and Cross, under pressure from their biggest client, threw her under the bus. They did an independent review, concluding Catherine's methodology was flawed. They fired her, revoked her certifications, made it clear she was unemployable. And then, Davenport went ahead with the acquisition. 9 months later, the fraud became public. The European CEO was arrested. Stock collapsed. Davenport lost $6 billion. Shareholders sued. The company barely survived. So Catherine was right. Catherine was right, but too late for her. Harrington settled lawsuits quietly and made Catherine sign an NDA. She can't talk about what happened, can't defend herself. Because Harrington painted her as incompetent, no firm will touch her. Her reputation is destroyed. Vincent looked at the photograph again. The confident woman reduced to serving wine to people who sneered at her. Where does she live now? Studio apartment in Logan Square. 600 square feet, 1,400 monthly rent, barely making ends meet with double shifts. And Vincent? She has significant debt, student loans, legal fees from fighting the NDA, medical bills from her mother's cancer treatment. She's drowning. Vincent walked to the window. 43 stories below, the Chicago River glinted. Somewhere down there, the smartest person he'd met in 5 years was working 2 restaurant jobs to survive. Mitchell thinks we shouldn't go near her, Aaron said. He says if investors find out we're meeting with someone from the Davenport scandal, even though she was right, they might panic. Vincent turned. Then we keep it quiet. Give me her address. Vincent, I'm not going to destroy her, Vincent said. She saved me from losing $60 million and possibly my entire fund. I owe her. Logan Square looked different in daylight. The neighborhood was vibrant, filled with families and young professionals who couldn't afford downtown. Vincent's Mercedes looked absurdly out of place, parked on Kedzie Avenue. The building entrance was unimpressive. Worn brick, broken intercom, handwritten directory. Vincent found C. Morales on masking tape next to 3F. He buzzed. Silence. He buzzed again. Who is it? Cautious, tinny through the speaker. Vincent Torres, from the restaurant, table 12. Long pause. Please leave. I'm not here to cause trouble, I just want to talk. There's nothing to talk about. I was out of line. I apologize. You saved me $240 million, Vincent interrupted loudly. Res. A passing woman with a stroller gave him a strange look. If I'd bought Nextcore, I would have lost everything. I'm not leaving until I've thanked you. Another pause. Then the buzzer sounded. Vincent climbed 3 flights, no elevator, the stairwell smelling of cooking spices and old paint. When he reached 3F, the door was slightly ajar. Catherine stood in the doorway wearing an old Northwestern sweatshirt and jeans, hair loose around her shoulders. Without the severe ponytail and server persona, she looked younger but infinitely more weary. Her eyes darted past him, checking for cameras, lawyers, anyone else. You shouldn't be here, she said quietly, not stepping back to invite him in. If anyone finds out Vincent Torres came to see me, your investors will assume the worst. I'm radioactive. I know about Davenport, Vincent said. Catherine's face went pale. Then you know why you should leave. I know you were right. I know they destroyed your career for telling the truth, and I know you've spent 3 years paying the price for other people's greed. What do you want, Mr. Torres? Vincent pulled out an envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000. Consulting fee, the memo line read, I want to pay you for your consultation. Catherine looked at the envelope but didn't take it. For someone barely scraping by, 50,000 represented breathing room, safety, hope. I don't want your charity, she said, voice hardening. I told you about Nextcore because I couldn't watch you walk into a trap, not because I wanted payment. It's not charity. Yes, it is, Catherine interrupted. You feel guilty. You think money will absolve you of treating me like a prop. But I don't need absolution. I need to be left alone. She started to close the door. Vincent put his hand against it, gently. Why are you punishing yourself? Catherine stopped. Excuse me? You did everything right. You found the fraud. You reported it. You tried to save your firm and client from disaster. And when they ignored you, you still couldn't stop yourself from speaking up at the restaurant. Even though it risked your job, you couldn't watch someone make a terrible mistake, even someone who treated you like you were invisible. He met her eyes. So why are you living like you're the one who did something wrong? Catherine stared at him, and for the first time he saw the anger beneath the exhaustion, the fury of someone wronged with nowhere to direct it. Because the world doesn't care about right and wrong, she said quietly. It cares about power. Davenport had power. Harrington had power. I had truth. And in a fight between truth and power, power wins every time. So yes, I'm punishing myself by surviving, by working 2 jobs and living here and pretending I never had another life, because the alternative is fighting a battle I've already lost. Vincent pulled his hand back, but he didn't leave. You're right. Power usually wins. But you know what's stronger than power? Catherine waited. Being right and having power. He pulled out another paper, a stock chart showing Taurus Capital's recent trades. I didn't just come to pay you. I came because I need help. Someone is front-running our trades. For 6 months, every major position we enter moves against us before execution. 20 Ivy League analysts can't figure it out. He held out the paper. I want the person who saw the next core problem to look at this. Catherine hesitated. Every instinct screamed to close the door, stay invisible, stay safe. But she could see the chart, the timestamps, the patterns. And despite everything, the pain, the humiliation, the years of suffering, the economist in her couldn't look away. She took the paper, studied it for 7 seconds. Her eyes moved rapidly across numbers, timestamps, volumes. Her thumb traced invisible lines connecting data points. It's not front-running, she said, almost to herself. It's latency arbitrage. What? Catherine looked up, analytical mind fully engaged despite herself. Every time you place an order over 10 million, there's a microsecond delay before execution. Someone is inserting trades ahead of yours during that delay. They're not stealing information. They're exploiting the physics of how data travels through fiber optic cables. Vincent stared. It's high-frequency trading latency arbitrage. Your orders route through your broker's servers, then to the exchange. But if someone has a server physically closer, we're talking meters, they can detect your order intention from electromagnetic signature and place trades microseconds before yours. Death by 1,000 tiny cuts. She pointed at specific data. Who's your primary broker? Silverman and Koch. Which exchange? Chicago Mercantile. There's your problem. Silverman moved their primary server to Aurora 3 months ago to save costs. Look when your losses accelerated. She pointed. April 27th. Exactly when Silverman's Aurora server went online. Someone built a server farm right next to the CME hub to parasitize your order flow. She handed the paper back. You don't have a strategy problem. You have an infrastructure problem. Switch brokers or demand Silverman move servers back into CME co-location. Vincent looked at the chart, then at Catherine, then back at the chart. His highly paid analysts had been chasing shadows for 6 months. She diagnosed it in 10 seconds while standing in her doorway. Come work for me, he said. No. Catherine, you're the smartest analyst I've ever met. I don't care about Davenport. I need someone who can see what everyone else misses. I said no. $300,000 a year, plus benefits, plus equity. You can work remotely. Nobody has to know. Catherine's fingers tightened slightly on the doorframe. $300,000 would wipe out her debt, save her mother's house, give her a life again. I can't. The NDA doesn't cover my firm. You can't work for Harrington's competitors or their clients. Torres Capital has never worked with Harrington. No violation. The industry blacklist. Doesn't matter if you're working as an independent contractor, off the books, no public announcement. You do what you're brilliant at, I pay what you're worth. Nobody needs to know. Catherine wanted to believe him, but she'd been burned before. Why, she asked quietly. Why risk your reputation to hire me? Vincent met her eyes. Because I almost lost everything by ignoring the smartest person in the room. I'm not making that mistake again. Long silence. The sounds of Logan Square filtered through the stairwell, children playing, cars passing, life happening. Finally, Catherine spoke. I have conditions. Name them. First, I work from home. I don't come to your office. I don't meet your colleagues. I'm a ghost. Done. Second, if the press finds out, if investors start asking questions, if this becomes a problem in any way, I walk away immediately. No severance, no lawsuits, I disappear. Agreed. And third, Catherine said, the tiniest hint of a smile crossing her face, you never ever ask me for financial advice as a joke again. Vincent raised his hand as if taking an oath. I promise. From now on, when I ask, it's because I'm terrified of being wrong. Catherine looked at him for a long moment. She saw the arrogance, yes, the privilege and power, but also genuine respect, maybe even genuine remorse. She held out her hand. Okay, I'll do it. They shook. One more thing, Vincent said as he turned to leave. I'm having my lawyers look into the Davenport case, quietly. If there's a way to challenge that NDA, to get your certifications reinstated, to clear your name, we're going to find it. Catherine felt tears prickling, but blinked them back. She'd spent 3 years being invisible. She wasn't going to cry in front of Vincent Torres. Thank you, she whispered. Vincent smiled. Thank you for saving my life. Twice. 3 months later. The crisis came on a Tuesday morning when every screen in Torres Capital's building flashed red. Alarms hummed throughout the trading floor. Aaron burst through Vincent's door. We're under attack. Someone is dumping massive sell orders on every stock we hold. They're driving prices down to trigger our margin calls. Vincent ran to the trading floor. The screens showed cascading red. How much are we down? 67 million in 4 minutes. And accelerating. Vincent called Catherine. She answered immediately. I see it. What is this? Tracking the order flow now, Catherine said, keyboard clacking in background. The sell orders are from a Cayman Islands shell company, Blue Horizon Capital Management. But these aren't random. This is coordinated assault. Someone knows exactly what you own and how to hurt you. Can you trace it? Working on it. 2 minutes. Vincent looked at the screens. 93 million down now. Mitchell appeared. Vincent, we need to liquidate. Sell everything before we hit margin threshold. No. We hold. Are you insane? We're bleeding out. Catherine is tracking the source. I don't care who's behind it. Vincent's phone buzzed. Text from Catherine. Call me. Now. Speakerphone. Vincent hit speaker. Catherine, you're on speaker. Mitchell, Aaron, and Robert are here. I've isolated the attack origin. The sell orders are from a high-frequency trading algorithm, but control commands are coming from a terminal in Chicago, specifically within 3 blocks of your office. Everyone froze. That's impossible, Robert said. Nobody knows our positions except... He stopped, looking at Mitchell. Don't, Mitchell said coldly. Don't even think it. But Vincent was already thinking it. Aaron, can you trace which terminal is sending commands? Aaron ran to his workstation, fingers flying. If Catherine can give me signature timestamps. Sending now, Catherine said. Look for commands with latency under 0.005 milliseconds. That means they're from inside your local network. The trading floor went silent, except for keyboard clicking and alarm humming. Got it, Aaron whispered. Terminal ID 7743. That's Mitchell's office. Every eye turned to Mitchell Hayes. Mitchell stood very still, face unreadable. Someone must have hacked my terminal. Commands require biometric authentication, Aaron said quietly. Fingerprint and retinal scan. Can't be spoofed remotely. Vincent walked slowly toward Mitchell. How long have you been planning this? I don't know what you're talking about. The fund is down 112 million. Catherine's voice came from the speaker, cold and analytical. If the attack continues 8 more minutes, Torres Capital hits its margin threshold and banks seize your assets. Is that the plan? Bankrupt the firm, buy the pieces cheap, rebuild under your own name? Mitchell's face remained impassive, but something flickered in his eyes. That's the accusation? I'm destroying the firm I helped build? You've been arguing with Vincent for weeks, Robert said slowly, pieces clicking together, saying he was reckless, gambling on bad information. You wanted control. Because he is reckless, Mitchell exploded, making billion-dollar decisions based on advice from a disgraced consultant hiding in Logan Square. I've been trying to save this firm. By destroying it? Vincent said. By forcing you to wake up, Mitchell shouted. By showing you what happens when you bet everything on someone who can't be trusted. Catherine has been right about everything, Vincent said, voice dangerously quiet. Has she? Mitchell pulled out his phone. Or has she been feeding you good information to earn trust so she could set you up for this? How do we know she's not behind the attack? She knows all our positions. She knows exactly when we're vulnerable. Maybe that was the plan. Get you to trust her, learn everything, then coordinate an attack while making it look like she's helping. That's insane, Aaron said. Is it? We don't know anything about her except what Vincent tells us. We've never met her. For all we know, she could be working for a competitor. Vincent looked at the speakerphone. Catherine? I'm here, she said quietly. Tell them you're not behind this. Silence. Catherine, Vincent said more urgently. I can't, Catherine said, voice sounding hurt, because they'll never believe me. Mitchell has already decided I'm guilty. Nothing I say will change that. See? Mitchell said triumphantly. Because she's been through this before, Vincent roared. Because 3 years ago, she told the truth and people like you called her a liar. She's not going to beg for your belief because she knows what it's like when belief doesn't matter. Silence across the trading floor. Everyone was listening. Vincent took a breath and spoke quietly. Catherine, can you stop the attack? I can't stop the selling. Whoever's behind this has more capital than you. If they keep this up 5 more minutes, you're insolvent. So we're finished, Mitchell said flatly. No, Catherine said. We don't stop the attack, we turn it against them. How? They're shorting everything you own. They borrowed shares, sold them, hoping to buy back cheaper after the price drops. But short selling has a vulnerability. If the price goes up instead, they have to buy back at a loss. And the faster it rises, the more desperate they become. A short squeeze, Aaron whispered. Exactly. If you hold the price steady, prevent it from dropping further, their algorithm will panic. It will double down, borrowing even more shares, but that makes their position even more vulnerable. And if we're wrong, Robert asked, if we can't hold the line, then you lose everything, Catherine said simply. But if you do nothing, you lose everything anyway. At least this way, you have a chance. Vincent looked at the screens. 140 million down now, 3 more minutes until margin threshold. How much capital would we need? Everything you have. Personal accounts, emergency reserves, credit lines, everything. You need to become an immovable object. Mitchell laughed bitterly. You want us to bet our entire personal fortunes on your theory? Yes, Catherine said. Based on what? Catherine was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, more vulnerable. Because 3 years ago, I told the truth about Davenport Global and nobody listened. $8 billion were lost because people thought I was lying or incompetent. Thousands of people lost their pensions. Retirees lost their savings, all because nobody would believe me. She paused. I won't let that happen again. I won't watch people lose everything because I stayed silent. So yes, I'm asking you to trust me. Not because I've earned it, not because you know me, but because I'm right, and if you don't listen, you'll lose everything just like Davenport did. Dead silence. Vincent looked at Mitchell. Decision time. Do we trust her or not? Mitchell stared at the speakerphone. He thought about the last 3 months, the predictions, the correct calls, 9 in a row. He thought about Catherine, whoever she really was, sitting alone, trying to save people who'd never shown her respect. He thought about Davenport, $8 billion lost because nobody listened. Aaron, Mitchell said quietly, unlock the emergency reserves. Aaron's eyes widened. Mitchell, do it, and contact the banks. Get every credit line activated. We're going all in. Vincent felt something unclench in his chest. You're sure? Mitchell met his eyes. No, but I'd rather lose money trusting someone who's been right than lose it because I was too proud to listen. He looked at the speakerphone. Dr. Morales, tell us what to do. For the next 8 minutes, Torres Capital's trading floor was a scene of controlled chaos. Modern warfare fought with fiber optic cables and stock tickers. We just bought another 100,000 shares of Cascade Pharma, Aaron called out, voice strained. We're maxed out on credit. If this doesn't work... It'll work, Vincent said, though his heart hammered. Catherine's voice came through the speaker, calm and steady. The algorithm is confused. It's never encountered a buyer this stubborn. Watch the volume indicators. It's about to double down. On the screens, the volume bars spiked violently. It's selling more, an analyst yelled. Twice as much volume. Good, Catherine said. That means it's over-leveraged. It borrowed shares it doesn't have, hoping to buy them back when the price crashes. But you're not letting the price crash. Vincent watched the numbers. Cascade Pharma holding steady at $47. Holding. Then $47.50. 48. It's working, Robert whispered. Not yet, Catherine said. The algorithm is calculating risk exposure. Aaron, can you calculate the total short volume? Aaron's fingers flew. Approximately, oh my God, $820 million worth of your holdings. And they have to buy all of it back to close their positions, Catherine said. But there's not enough liquidity. If they try to buy that volume, they'll drive prices up themselves. They're trapped. Vincent felt a cold smile spreading. So what happens now? Now we watch them panic. The screens told the story. Cascade Pharma, $49, 50, 52. The algorithm was desperately trying to buy back the shares it had sold short, but every purchase drove the price higher, making losses bigger, forcing it to buy more. Death spiral. Northern Aerospace is climbing, an analyst called out. $56, 60, 65. They're covering all positions at once, Aaron said, voice filled with something between horror and exhilaration. They're buying from us at massive premium. The screens blazed green. Everything Torres Capital owned was suddenly soaring. The algorithm that attacked them was now their biggest customer, forced to buy back billions at inflated prices. We're up, Robert said, staring in disbelief. We're up $190 million. Cheers erupted across the trading floor, but Vincent didn't celebrate. He was watching the attack patterns, the order flow, the signatures. Catherine, he said quietly, you said the attack originated from inside our network. Yes, but the attack stopped the moment we started winning. The algorithm shut down perfectly, exactly when it realized it was trapped. That instant shutdown requires a manual kill command. Agreed. Which means whoever initiated the attack was watching in real time. They were here, in this building, and they made the decision to cut losses. He turned slowly and looked at Mitchell. Mitchell stood by the windows, phone in hand, face pale. Mitchell, Vincent said quietly, what's the latency on that kill command? Mitchell didn't answer. Catherine, can you trace the shutdown signature? Already did. 0.003 milliseconds. Inside your local network. Terminal 7743. Mitchell's terminal. Every eye turned to Mitchell Hayes. It was you, Vincent said. Not a question. Mitchell looked at him, and for the first time in 10 years, Vincent saw something in his old friend's face he didn't recognize. Not guilt, not shame, rage. You're damn right it was me, Mitchell said quietly. The trading floor went silent. You want to know why? Because you've lost your mind, Vincent. Gambling billions on advice from a woman who got fired from her last job. A woman hiding in an apartment, feeding you unverifiable information, making you dependent on her. I tried to warn you, but you wouldn't listen. So you tried to destroy the firm, Vincent said, voice dangerously quiet. I tried to save it, Mitchell shot back. I was going to let the bear raid run just long enough to trigger a margin call. Banks would seize control temporarily, force you out, and I could step in to restructure. The firm would survive, investors would be protected, everything would be fine. Except I'd be ruined, Vincent said. You'd be alive, Mitchell said, free from whatever hold she has over you. He pointed at the speakerphone with disgust. That's what this is about? Catherine's voice came through, soft and sad. You thought Vincent needed to be saved from me? I think you're using him. I think you saw a vulnerability and exploited it. I think you've been manipulating him from the start. Today proves I saved you, Catherine said. All of you. If I'd wanted to destroy Torres Capital, I could have let you follow through with NextCore. I could have let you walk into a dozen other traps. Instead, I've spent 3 months keeping you from making catastrophic mistakes. For what? Mitchell demanded. What do you want? I want, Catherine said, and her voice broke slightly, to be good at something again. That's all. I just wanted to do the work I was trained to do. I didn't ask for money. I didn't ask for recognition. I just wanted to use my skills to help people instead of watching them destroy themselves. Silence. You tried to destroy us, Aaron said to Mitchell, voice shaking. I was trying to fix a broken situation, Mitchell said. But the conviction was gone from his voice now. He looked around the trading floor at analysts who'd trusted him, at partners who'd worked with him for a decade, at Vincent who'd considered him a friend. You need to leave, Vincent said quietly. Mitchell's face hardened. You're firing me? I'm protecting the firm. From you. He nodded to Robert. Call security and call the SEC. They're going to want to know about this. Mitchell's face went white. Vincent, come on. We were friends, Vincent interrupted. Friends don't try to destroy each other, even when they think they're doing the right thing. Security arrived 3 minutes later. Mitchell didn't resist. He simply walked out, head down, career over. 6 months later. The spring evening was warm, and the outdoor patio at Belmont's was full of diners enjoying fresh pasta and Italian wine under strings of soft lights. The restaurant had been completely transformed, the oppressive formality gone, replaced with welcoming elegance. Vincent Torres climbed the stairs to the second floor and knocked on the door marked Sterling Morales Capital, Private Office. Come in, Catherine's voice called. Vincent entered and found Catherine at a desk covered with spreadsheets and 3 monitors. But she looked happy, relaxed, nothing like the exhausted waitress he'd met months ago. Vincent, she said, standing to shake his hand, You're early. Traffic was better than expected. How's the new venture? Better than projected. We've closed 3 deals in the last month. Small businesses that are fundamentally sound but poorly managed. We fix operations, stabilize finances, and I either help owners succeed or find good buyers. Everyone wins. She smiled. It's nice to build things instead of just preventing disasters. Hence the name, Vincent said, gesturing to the door. Sterling Morale's capital. I figured I'd earned the right to reclaim it, Catherine said with a grin. Vincent pulled out a folder. Speaking of which, I have something for you. He handed it to her. Catherine opened it and froze. Inside was a partnership agreement. The header read, Torres Capital Group and Sterling Morales Capital Strategic Alliance. What is this? A merger proposal. Not a full merger. You keep your independence, your own clients, your own decisions. But we formalize our relationship. Torres handles large institutional investments. Sterling Morales handles operational restructuring and small business. We share resources, insights, and split profits 50-50. Catherine stared at the document. Before you say no, Vincent interrupted, think about what we could do together. You're helping real people, real businesses, but you're limited by capital constraints, a few clients at a time. If you partner with Torres Capital, you'd have access to billions. You could help hundreds of businesses instead of dozens. He leaned forward. And I need you. My team is good, but they're not you. We've made money since you stopped consulting for us, but we've also made mistakes we wouldn't have made if you'd been there. I trust your judgment more than anyone's. Catherine looked at the partnership agreement, then at Vincent. Equal partners? She asked. Not employer and consultant? Equal partners. You have veto power over any deal I propose, and I have veto over yours. We only move forward when we both agree. Complete trust, complete transparency. Catherine was quiet for a long moment. I have conditions, she said finally. Vincent smiled. I expected nothing less. First, we use our combined resources to create a whistleblower protection fund. When we find analysts or consultants who've been fired for telling the truth, we help them. Legal fees, living expenses, whatever they need to survive until they can rebuild. Done, Vincent said immediately. Second, we commit to ethical investing. No predatory takeovers. No mass layoffs just to boost quarterly numbers. We find companies worth saving, and we actually save them. Agreed. And third, Catherine said, and for the first time she smiled, you have to eat dinner here at least once a month. I want you to see what good management actually looks like. Vincent laughed. Deal. Though I have to warn you, your waitstaff is much better trained than they used to be. I'm not sure I'll get the same quality of financial advice while being served. Catherine shook her head, still smiling. She picked up a pen, an expensive one this time, not the cheap plastic from her Waitress days, and signed the partnership agreement. Welcome to the firm, Mr. Torres, she said, extending her hand. Vincent shook it. Glad to be here, Miss Morales. They sat there for a moment, in the office above the restaurant where they'd first met, where everything had changed for both of them. Can I ask you something? Vincent said. Of course. That day at table 12 when Mitchell was mocking you and I was being an arrogant ass, why did you say something? You could have just walked away. You could have let me make the mistake. Why did you risk your job to help me? Catherine thought about the question. She remembered standing there with the wine bottles, looking at the numbers on their prospectus, feeling the old part of her brain, the economist, the analyst, waking up after years of forced sleep. Because, she said finally, I spent 3 years being invisible, being nobody. And in that moment, I realized I had a choice. I could stay invisible and safe, or I could be seen and risk everything. She met his eyes. I was so tired of being invisible, Vincent. Even if it meant losing my job, even if it meant you'd mock me or report me or get me fired, at least for 30 seconds, someone would see me for who I really was. Someone would know I existed. Vincent nodded slowly. I'm glad you took that risk. So am I, Catherine said, even though you were absolutely terrible to me. I was, Vincent agreed. I'm sorry. I know, Catherine said, and you've spent the last 8 months proving it. That's why this, she gestured to the partnership agreement, works. Because you learned, you changed, you became someone worth partnering with. She stood and walked to the window, looking down at the patio where diners were enjoying their meals, where servers were being treated with respect, where everything was different than it had been. "You know what the best part is?" she said. "What?" "I used to dream about the day when I'd be vindicated, when people would apologize and admit they were wrong about me, when I'd get my career back and my reputation back and everything would be like it was before." She turned to face him. "But this is better than before. Before, I was successful, but I was alone. I was respected, but I was fragile. One scandal, one mistake, and I lost everything. Now," she smiled, "now I have a partner who won't abandon me when things get hard. Now I'm building something that actually helps people instead of just making rich people richer. Now I know exactly how far I can fall and still survive." "And that's better?" Vincent asked. "It's real," Catherine said. "It's tested. It's mine in a way success never was before." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. "So," Vincent said finally, "should we go downstairs and get dinner? Celebrate the new partnership?" "Absolutely," Catherine said. "But I'm warning you, the waitstaff here is very well informed. If you try to make any bad investment decisions, they will absolutely call you out on it." Vincent laughed. "Good. That's exactly what I need." They walked downstairs together, out of the office and into the restaurant. The maitre d' greeted them warmly and led them to a table by the window. As they sat down and ordered wine, a bottle of Barolo, naturally, Catherine looked around the restaurant she now owned, thought about the business she was building, considered the partnership she had just formed. She thought about the journey from invisible waitress to equal partner, from pariah to respected analyst, from victim to victor, and she realized that Vincent had been wrong about one thing in his mind. The industry hadn't destroyed her 3 years ago. It had tried to destroy her, but she had survived, and in surviving, she had become something stronger than she'd ever been before. Outside, the Chicago skyline glittered against the darkening sky. The city that had once seemed full of closed doors and impossible barriers now felt full of possibilities. Because sometimes the most valuable thing you can possess isn't money or power or reputation. Sometimes it's just the courage to speak up when everyone expects you to stay silent. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, someone actually listens. The End Epilogue. The story of Catherine Morales and Vincent Torres became a case study taught in business schools across the country, not as a lesson in finance, but as a lesson in integrity. Sterling Morales Capital grew to manage over $2 billion within 3 years, specializing in operational turnarounds and ethical investing. Catherine published a book called The Cost of Truth, A Whistleblower's Journey. It became a bestseller and inspired dozens of other financial professionals to come forward with their own stories. The Whistleblower Protection Fund she and Vincent created helped 43 analysts rebuild their careers after being blacklisted for doing the right thing. Mitchell Hayes pleaded guilty to market manipulation and served 18 months in federal prison. After his release, he quietly left finance and now teaches business ethics at a community college. He sent Catherine a letter of apology 3 years after his conviction. She never responded, but she kept the letter. Belmont's became one of Chicago's most successful restaurants, known not just for its food, but for its treatment of employees. Catherine implemented profit sharing, full healthcare benefits, and tuition reimbursement. Turnover dropped to nearly zero. And Vincent Torres, he learned to listen more than he spoke, to question more than he assumed, and to remember that the smartest person in the room might not be the one sitting at the head of the table. Sometimes they're standing quietly in the background, waiting for someone to finally ask the right question.